Hey y'all, it's your girl Curly Kiki and welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I did the parting for this invisible locks hairstyle. So let's jump right into the video. When parting my hair, I always start with the back area first, and for this hairstyle, the first part I'm making is this part you see to the back of my hair, and it's in line with my ear. Now this part is going to serve as an anchor and sort of a guide for all the other parts, both above and below it. Now when I make my part, I first use no products for parting my hair. Then I go in with some shine and jam to sort of clean the parts, and I use a really fine whether it's a fine tooth comb or whether it's the tail of the rat tail comb or even an edge brush. So right now I'm using an edge brush, the end of it, to sort of clean the parts. Now as I mentioned, this part is going to serve as a guide for all the other parts. So if this one is bent, then the others are going to be bent too. So I'm trying my best to get it as straight as possible. Once I'm comfortable with how straight my anchor part is, I go on to make the very first part in my hair that I'm going to use. So this part is directly under the anchor part. So here it's not going to take as long and it's not as hard to make this part because I already know how thick I can measure the thickness of the part with the anchor that I made. So I know my line is not going to be bent, or at least not that bent when making my part. So this is what it's looking like after making the part. Next I go in with some shine and jam, and I'm sort of trying to clean the part up to get it as straight as possible. Now for me to see the parts in the back, what I'm using is a mirror to the back of me directly and a mirror to the front of me. So here I can see the mirrors reflecting on each other, and that's how I know, if my parts are straight or not, by using this two mirror technique. Now once I'm done with that section, I'm making a center part now to the front of my hair. This center part is going to serve as another anchor in a sense. So the very first one to the back you saw me make, that's an anchor for all the parts that are going to be going horizontally. And the one to the center, it's going to serve as a guide as well for these same horizontal parts. But as I go higher, I'm going to need to see the thickness of the rows that I'm making, hence the reason for that center part. So I make all the parts on one side of my head first, and I'm using both mirrors. You'll see me flipping back and forth to see if my hair is part, because using this technique you can only see one side of your entire head with the reflection. So I'm always going to be turning back and forth, and that's what I'm doing right now. I got this first section to be straight. Next I'm going to try to get the other side of this section straight, and that's all I'm doing. I'm using this technique for the entire for my entire head. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing, because my explanation somehow sounds weird to me, but I'm making the parts on one side, and once it's clear and I can see that okay, it's neat, I make the parts on the other side to match this side. Also, you may see some flaking of my scalp from time to time. This is because I do suffer from seborrheic dermatitis, and it is flare up season for me. So it's not that my hair is dirty or anything, it's just that I'm having like a mild flare up in this video. So back to the video. Now after making the parts, as usual, I put some shine and jam to go in and sort of clean up the parts or fine tune the parts. Now each step is sort of the same thing I'm doing. I'm making my regular part in my hair. I'm doing it one side at a time. Once I'm done with one side, I go on to the other side. I add my shine and jam, then I clean up the entire part. So I join both sections together once again, and I make sure that it's matching, and I check to see from my mirror if it's straight enough, or at least to my liking. And once I'm done, that's it. I'm doing the same thing for each step. Now this is what it looks like after finishing that row. Then I move on to the other row. Now I am adding some clips, and this is because I don't want any little fine hairs or anything to get caught in the other section. So it is important that you use some clips or something to sort of create a separation when doing your parts, so that the hair doesn't get any tangled or mixed up with the other section. So the clips are very important as well. Now once I am finished with parting that side of my hair, I go on to do the other side of my hair. So as I mentioned, you're gonna see me flipping back and forth, and this is just so that I can get my angles for parting. That's all. Now if you are doing the parting on someone's head, obviously it's going to be a lot easier, but when it's time to do the parting in your own head, you gotta get creative and find ways to see all the different angles of your head. Also, I would advise you to detangle your hair before doing any parting. It's going to save you a lot of time. I did not detangle my hair before doing my parting, so it did take me some extra time to get it done, but the end result was the same. It just took a while or a bit longer to get the parting done. It's also important for you to check the thickness of the part at different intervals of parting a section. This is to ensure that the section is as even as possible, or it is the right thickness that you want it to be. So you can check it from the center, from an angle at the side, and also an angle at the other side. So check it as much as you can, just to ensure there's consistency with the thickness of the section you are doing. When you get to the center of your hair, this part is a little tricky because it has to be as even as possible to avoid having your hair looking, well, uneven to the front, or your center part not being too centered. So it's important to make this part and look at it at different angles so that you can see, you can have it as straight as possible, or as straight as you can get it. Now once I was done with the entire section, and for this side, I went to bed because it was a lot. It took me some time. I pinned the hair up and I went to bed. And on the next day, that's when I actually started doing my hair, or separating my hair into the different cubes, or the different parts, boxes, whatever you want to call it. That's when I did it. I did it the entire day. So it took me probably 2 days to complete this hairstyle. Now when doing the boxes for my hair, I wanted to do sort of a brick layering pattern. So that very first section to the back, I made it into 2 parts, and the section right above that, I made it into 3 parts. Now the center of the bottom usually falls to the middle of the part above it. So when you hear anyone talking about a bricklayering pattern, that's simply what they mean. So as I go higher up in my hair, you're going to see the pattern forming. It's not always going to be as perfect as I would like it to be, but I'm trying to get it as close as possible. And this usually helps. So when you're doing any type of jumbo hairstyle, whether it's locks, braids, or anything, it helps to give the illusion that your hair is actually fuller than it is. So this is a great pattern for when you're doing any type of jumbo hairstyle. Notice that I always start with parting the back center of my hair, then I move my way to the front of my hair. So I start with the back in the middle. I do one side of the parting. Once I'm satisfied and I think my parts are even as possible, or as straight as possible, I do the next side, or to match that very first side. So I make sure I have the same amount of braids or plaits on each side of my head, just to give it a nice even look. The first row of my hair has 2 braids, the second row has 3 braids, the third row has 5 braids, and the row above it, this one has 7 braids. So and that's in the order from the bottom to the top. Next, I'm going to work on the center of my hair, and when working with that last section, I'm not going to be doing too much of a bricklaying. So it is going to be a bricklaying pattern with the rows below it. However, it's going to be in a grid pattern with the rows that are in line with it to the top, if that makes sense. So it's sort of a bricklayer, yes, with the ones to the bottom of this section, but they all go in a grid with each other. So I try to get the parts as straight as possible and to match each other on both sides of my head. Hopefully you understand that explanation as well. But if you can see in the video, I make the parts on one side, next I make the parts on the other side, and I'm going in and trying to clean up the parts to make sure it is straight and they are all in line with each other. So there's a center part, and then there's the grid pattern that goes across each plait, and hopefully these are all straight. So that's what I'm doing in the video. I'm just making sure everything is all straight and lined up. Let me know what you think about the braiding pattern in the comment section below, and if you understand my explanations as well, or even in the video if you can understand based on what you're seeing, let me know in the comment section below so I'll know how to improve on explaining my hairstyles. Now once I was done and I was satisfied that my grid patterns are, you know, in line with each other, I went ahead and make sure and clip them down, and I'm braiding them just so they don't get caught up with each other until I am ready to do my hair. So this is what the final parting is looking like after I'm finished with all the parts and the grids. Next one, it's time to install the hair. Now when installing the hair, I'm making my parts to the center of each one of the boxes. Now because of how I did it in a bricklayer pattern, most of the times the parts ended up in line with each other, so it made the hairstyle look even cleaner and even neater. Once I got to the front of my hair, I didn't really have a need for 2 mirrors, so because I could have seen everything to the front. So this is what the parts look like at the front of my hair, and notice the parts on top are meeting the parts below in a sense, so it's filling it up nicely. And this is what my hair is looking like once I am done. So leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you thought about my parting. Let me know what you thought about me explaining what I did, if it was clear enough. Let me know if you like the hairstyle, and if you're interested in seeing the full video, there is a link in the description below. I'll be sure to put it up so you can see how I installed the hair from start to finish, how I got to this point, and I guess you can let me know in the comment section below. I really love this hairstyle. It was not that difficult to install, however it was really time consuming because of the parting that I had to do. I had to make sure everything was extra crisp and extra sharp, so it took me some time, but I got the job done. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Now thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for staying to the end. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do hit the subscription button below the video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up before leaving. Hopefully this video will be able to help someone in their parting. So until next time.